Have you ever found yourself caught in the grip of anxiety, maybe experiencing that lightheadedness or dizziness or a racing heart, and your thoughts are spiraling into a vortex of warnings and negativity? I can't stand this. It's horrible. I have to get out of here. What if I lose control? What if I snap? What if I embarrass myself? It's essential to recognize the profound impact your words carry in those moments. Now, within the anxiety and panic cycle, we may not always control the physical sensations, but the narrative we create in response matters greatly. Imagining catastrophic scenarios or foreseeing doom can intensify anxiety. How we interpret our feelings and the dialogue we have within ourselves can either amplify or diminish our symptoms. Now, when you sense a bodily reaction or an anxious thought, consider the following options. Remind yourself of the facts. Understand that anxiety sensations aren't harmful. They're a part of a survival mechanism. Remind yourself that your brain misinterpreted danger, and there's no need to resist or fight these symptoms. You don't have to do anything to calm yourself. Negative, exaggerated self-talk is a hindrance. Saying things like, "I can't do this," is keeping you stuck. Now, people with anxiety and agoraphobia often need to change the way they're thinking and relating to those anxious thoughts. So you can do this by using the following cognitive diffusion techniques. Number one, notice and label your thoughts. This is kind of like catching yourself in the act. I just noticed that I had a what if thought about going insane, or I just noticed the fearful thought, what if I'm doing that exposure and I pass out? Now, identify and label those thoughts. You could call them scary thoughts, what if thoughts. It helps to separate the emotion from the thoughts themselves and helps you to notice that they're just thoughts. They're not facts. Number two, recognize when your brain is in a catastrophizing mode. Instead of focusing on what your thought is about, notice that your brain is in this catastrophizing activity mode. It's like your brain is saying, here are some horrible things for you to think about right now. Now, they're not happening right this minute, but here, think about this, focus on this, worry about that. Again, this is only because your brain wants to protect you. It wants to shut you down and try to keep you safe. But you can recognize when it's in that catastrophizing mode and not take it so seriously. Our brains get it wrong all the time. And the better you get at catching those what ifs, the more you're going to be able to separate yourself from being drawn into that fear. Number three, allow that fearful thought and anxiety. So another helpful technique after you identify what ifs is just to allow the fearful thoughts and anxiety to just float there in the background. Give it, the anxiety, your permission to kind of come and go as it pleases. Fearful thoughts and anxiety are their normal experiences, and if we allow them to just ebb and flow naturally, we don't overreact to them, we learn that we can tolerate them, and nothing can stop us. Now, talk to your anxiety almost like it's a person. You can say something to yourself like, there you are, anxiety. Feel free to come and go as much as you'd like. You're welcome here anytime. Number four, humor your worries. So years ago, I had a neighbor and she loved to complain. She would catch me on walks or when I was working in the yard and she would start complaining. She was negative about everything that you can imagine. It might be the animals in the neighborhood. It might be the kids, the drivers, the post office, the leaves, basically everything. And so I would just kind of humor her by nodding and smiling. But believe me, everything was going in one ear and out the other. I think this is a great strategy for negative thoughts and anticipatory anxiety. We can't force it out of our heads, so think of it like a complaining neighbor. or even a ridiculous cartoon character, and just kind of let it pass through without giving it much attention. Number 5, exaggerate your thoughts. Another technique is taking it to the extreme side of ridiculousness by exaggerating your thoughts. So let's say your thought was, what if I do that exposure and people think I'm crazy? So you can say something back to yourself like, well, they're probably going to put up posters around town and notify everybody how crazy I am. Or I'm sure they'll be, I'll be on the evening news tonight too if I haven't been taken away by then. Number 6, use a funny voice. So another diffusion technique is to say your worried thoughts in maybe a different language, or maybe a funny fake foreign accent, using any kind of funny voice. Again, this removes the emotionality and the seriousness from the thought and makes everything just a little bit easier. Number 7, sing your worry. Finally, try to sing your worry. Sing about how afraid you are and that your exposure might make you faint or stay in DPR or make you lose control of your bladder, whatever your scary predictions are. It helps to sing about it, and singing about it in a funny voice or a funny accent is even better. So another technique I suggest is called, number 8, just get it done. Now, this is a great suggestion to use for anticipatory anxiety. So let's say you have an exposure planned a few days from now, and you're already having anxious thoughts about it to the extent that it's disrupting your sleep, and you're in a constant state of rumination and worry. Just get it done means you just do it now. Do the exposure or something very similar to the exposure or comparable right now, today, or as soon as possible. Just get it done and over with instead of staying in that anticipatory anxiety. My client was so afraid of driving through a tunnel. She planned an exposure where she had a planned event that required her to drive through a tunnel. She had so much anticipatory anxiety about it that I suggested she just go out right now and drive through a tunnel, any tunnel today. Now, she ended up driving through a different tunnel, but it helped to bring her back to reality that her anticipatory anxiety was so much worse than the actual exposure itself. Number 9 is schedule a worry time. Now, in this technique, you schedule, say, 15 minutes at a particular time of day, and you sit and you just worry as hard as you can, as good as you can. You can even make notes when you're having a worry time during the day. And even if you have a worry, save it for your worry time. Now, this does sound ridiculous, but it works to help stop the rumination. It's almost like your brain is very thankful that having a specific time set aside to think that worry through. And number 10, move towards valued actions. My last point is that we tend to feel anxious and fearful, have fearful thoughts about things that we care about. But at the same time, if we're moving towards something that we value, like restoring our independence or having the freedom to drive and travel, then we can do challenging and difficult things because we value it. We care about those things. So if your freedom and your independence are important to you, then changing the way you relate to your thoughts is important, as well as having an attitude of willingness to do whatever work is necessary to move toward your values, move toward your freedom and independence. For more information, check out my therapy resources at PaigePradko.com. I'll see you there.